The secret to being a mind-blowingly great dominant is not about finding a specific style or fitting into a particular archetype. And with just a little awareness, it's actually quite simple to find your voice and be the most authentic and confident dominant you want to be. So if you want to learn more, hit that subscribe button and let's jump into it today. Now, archetypal psychology has been historically used in defining and clarifying BDSM roles, with the primary ones being the authoritarian or dictator, who focuses on discipline, order, and strict control; a seducer or seductress, who uses sexual allure and desire to dominate; a caregiver, who provides nurturing, care, and emotional support, such as a daddy or mommy dom; and royalty, such as a king or a queen, who commands respect and reverence and embodies regal authority and power. And although these primary roles can be helpful in initial discovery and clarification through negotiation, I have seen these archetypes more often than not trap dominance into a fixed way of operating and subsequently limit or altogether cripple their creative, expansive thought process. We don't want that. We don't want to kill your creativity. This is why I say that labels are only valuable to the extent they provide clarity. The use of labels beyond that point is often quite limiting to our authentic design and range of expression. That's why I want to help you find your dominant style, not by boxing you into one of these dominant roles, but by showing you how to flow freely between them. Because it's in this authentic flow that you'll be able to fully tap into the many facets of your unique dominant style. And part of the uniqueness of your dominant style is how you uniquely weave together the varying roles or the varying styles in a way that suits you. It's the novice dom that thinks they have to identify as one of those 4 archetypes and stay in that. It's the skilled dominant that understands that I'm probably a facet of every single one of those in some degree, in some percentage. For instance, some of the most common types of dominance include the sadist, who derives pleasure from inflicting pain, discomfort, or humiliation on their submissive, who wants and consents to this dynamic. The dynamic itself often centers around consensual sadomasochism, where the submissive enjoys or finds fulfillment in receiving pain or being humiliated, with the focus being on the interplay of pain and pleasure and an emphasis on the emotional and physical reactions of the submissive. The master seeks a high level of control over their submissive, who is typically referred to as a slave in these dynamics, which are structured with clear power dynamics where the submissive surrenders a significant degree of autonomy, including but not limited to control over their daily activities, thoughts, and behaviors, with the focus on this dynamic being on ownership, obedience, and total submission, often involving extensive protocols and rituals. The owner is similar to the master, with the slight difference being the owner views their submissive as almost a possession, often with the submissive identifying as a pet or object even in these dynamics. And in these dynamics, the owner has significant control over the submissive, who often relinquishes personal autonomy for the most common purposes of objectification or animal role play, as the focus here is ownership, control, and the identity of the submissive as a property or pet. In stark contrast is the pleasure dom, who focuses on the sexual and sensual pleasure of their submissive, often taking control to maximize their partner's enjoyment, which includes teasing, edging, or controlling the submissive's pleasure, delaying or enhancing orgasms as part of the dynamic, with the primary focus being on sexual satisfaction, control of pleasure, and sensual domination. Similarly is the soft dom, which has less of a focus on sexuality and more on providing gentle guidance, affection, and mutual pleasure. Soft doms are gentle, caring, and supportive and prioritize the emotional connection with the submissive, focusing on tenderness, mutual respect, and emotional intimacy within the dynamic. Then there's the caregiver, which is still a softer style of domination, with the small differences being a focus on care versus connection. This dynamic is often about affection and support, with the dominant acting as a parental figure, mentor, or protector to their submissive, who is often referred to as a little or baby boy, baby girl in these relationships. That focus on emotional well-being, nurturing, and creating a safe and loving environment. You can also have more fetish-oriented styles like the fin dom, who exerts control through financial means, often receiving money, gifts, or financial support from their submissive. Financial domination is far more commonly found with female dominance, where the male submissive derives pleasure from being financially controlled or exploited, often seeing it as a form of devotion or service, with the focus being on monetary control, financial dependency, and the power dynamics around wealth and resources. And finally, the rigger, who specializes in rope bondage and focuses on tying and restraining their submissive using intricate knots and ties. This dynamic revolves around the art of rope play, where the dominant takes control by physically restraining the submissive, who often finds fulfillment in the trust and vulnerability of being bound. As you may guess, the focus here is all about the rope bondage, the physical restraint, and the aesthetic and psychological aspects of being tied. Now, I know this is not a complete list, as the types of dominant roles and role plays are virtually endless. These are just the most common and gender-neutral styles for the purposes of this discussion. Remember, each style of dominance has its unique characteristics, but all are rooted in consent, communication, and mutual satisfaction within the BDSM framework. These dynamics can range from nurturing and emotional to strict and controlling, depending on the preferences and arrangements between the individuals involved, and more importantly, depending on whatever energy is naturally flowing through you, the dominant at the moment, and what would be the most effective directive or response for the submissive experience. And again, high-level skilled dominants understand it's not about fixing yourself into one of these styles or roles or role plays. It's about the ability to maneuver through them, to flow through them, and to choose whatever style, whatever tone, whatever role that best suits the experience, the play, the scene, the engagement at the moment. So for me as the dominant, I find myself honestly settling equally into those 4 archetypes. I find myself able to be just as commanding as I can be nurturing, as I can approach it with this kind of queenly, goddessy mentality where I demand respect. But there can also be some fun sadistic elements, especially when we get into the psychology of the experience. So I think that's a big allure, and what a lot of you see in me is I can go from one to the other. I can jump between those 4 archetypes very fluidly. And I've had a lot of experience doing so, not just as a pro dom, as a lifestyle dom throughout the years, but as a switch myself. And that's another point to this. You're not just going to fit into multiple roles or styles as a dominant, but as a submissive, and definitely as a switch. So as a dominant on the top side, I can definitely identify and desire the master role, the sadist, even a caregiver, soft dom to a certain degree. I definitely find interest in all of those expressions on the top side, but it's very different on the bottom side. On the bottom side, I want to experience a soft dom. I want to experience a daddy dom, a caregiver, a pleasure dom. I don't want to experience a sadist. I don't want to experience a master. I don't want that experience as a bottom, as a sexual bottom. I'm looking for something far more pleasurable and nurturing. And the way to naturally find that fluidity and flow with your energy in order to be the most confident and sexually empowered dominant that you want to be, the key, the secret, we've got to nail our communication. because communication simply expresses externally what's going on in our internal world. And in a couple of weeks, I'm dropping some videos about the powerful nuances in dominant communication. So be sure you're subscribed and have those notifications turned on so you won't miss a thing. But to conclude our discussion today, effective dominant communication begins with awareness. Don't just dismiss this point, because this is not some theoretical, just be more mindful concept. I'm talking about awareness of your feelings, awareness of your thoughts, awareness of your energy, the submissive's energy, the submissive's emotional state. What is the submissive need from you at the moment? All of that. Too often we go too fast, we're too distracted, we're not mindful, we're not aware of even how we think, what we're thinking, how we're feeling, what we want. How can we ever direct a submissive in that energy when we can't even identify the energy? So we identify all of that through awareness, and then we lead the energy through our communication. Again, communication is simply externally expressing what's internally going on. So the key here is to be aware of the communication styles available to you and choose the most seductive combination moment by moment, interaction by interaction. And what are these communication styles? Explicit, commanding, threatening, nurturing, and flirtatious. And remember, just as it's not about fixing yourself into a dominant role, it's not about settling into a single communication style. It's the skilled dominant operating at a high level of intuition and awareness who can intensify and broaden their expression by combining these styles. And we'll get to those combinations in a minute, but here are a few examples of the basic styles of communication. Explicit. I can't wait to spread you open and taste you again. Commanding. When you get home, I want you to get naked, put on a blindfold, and wait for me by the door. Threatening. Feeling sassy, huh? I have better uses for that mouth. Nurturing. You look so submissive and sweet when you wear my collar. And flirtatious. I'm just thinking about the next time I get you on your knees. So, each of those is pretty good, right? Pretty hot. Would definitely get a submissive's attention. And do you see, did you notice, did you catch it, how my use of tone in each of those examples added to the message and energy shift? Because here's the thing, how you say it is just as important as what you say. But we'll get into that way more in an upcoming video. Again, don't miss it. Hit that subscribe button, okay? You don't want to miss this. But here's the even better part. We can make it hotter. We can make all of these communication styles even hotter by fusing them together to suit what energy is naturally flowing through us at the moment and what we're reading from our submissive, such as threatening and flirtatious. I can't wait to tie you up when I get home. Nurturing and flirtatious. I plan to reward you tonight for being such a good boy. Explicit plus commanding. I want to hear you beg for it. Commanding plus nurturing. You broke the rules, sweetheart. I'm going to teach you a lesson tonight. Commanding and threatening. You better stretch before our scene. I plan on being extra rough with you tonight. Explicit plus threatening. You're going to have tears roll down your cheeks for me tonight. Threatening and nurturing. Do you trust me? Good. Because you're going to prove it tonight. So do you also see how we were able to take everything up a notch just by integrating mindful combinations of these tones and styles? And this doesn't even touch those phrases that mix 3 or more tones. That's a high level dominant communication. And that's why I've created an interactive guide just for you with 200 dominant texts you can send to your submissive. This guide will help you find exactly the right combination of tone and language for any given situation. You can get this incredible resource and more in my erotic communication bundle on Patreon. Just follow the link in this video's description to get connected, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.